Good evening and welcome once again to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are coming to you live from the gun store here on East Tropicana Avenue in Las Vegas. This show is about guns, related politics, and more often about self-defense issues. We are carried, if you're listening on the radio, at KSHP 1400 AM. That is broadcast worldwide on their website, KSHP 1400 AM. And we are on YouTube under Fired Up with Bob Irwin. The shows appear every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. The YouTube show stays up forever. So you can look at old shows. If you missed one, if you're driving and missed part of it, you can see the rest of it on YouTube. Tonight's guest is Las Vegas attorney Bill Gamage.
Hey, Bob.
One of my super duper good lawyers to put on this, because years ago, before Bill was an attorney, we taught police academies together when he was an officer with gaming control enforcement here, and been looking at that. He later became an attorney. I've done actually work for him on cases now, and he's the perfect guy, a firearms instructor, law enforcement, and a lawyer. He gets the right answers. When you get in trouble for murdering somebody, give Bill a call. His contact information, seriously, is on our website at Fired Up with Bob Irwin. You can look that up and you will find contact information for him if you have a case you're interested in. He's your guy. Anyway, there are several hundred uses of firearms every week in the United States for self-defense. Most of them aren't covered by the mainstream media. They seem only to like misuse of firearms. So we always start out with a few of those for our listeners' education. Some are good shooting, some are questionable, and occasionally we use one that's just plain stupid. But they are literally, I picked them out for the use in educating gun owners, people who carry concealed firearms, people who carry firearms, people who have a gun in their house, as to what happens, what's right, what's wrong, and how to maybe make a shooting, even if it's a good shooting, a little better. We have some inquiries as to why we don't detail cases, how they would react under Nevada law. If it's in Montana, we're talking about Montana law. In general, the reason is, for local listeners, is this is a nationwide show. And probably only about one out of our four listeners or so are actually from Nevada. But we try to relate them to Nevada law for our local listeners, particularly on the radio, because we know you're local if you're driving in your car. Well, not necessarily, though. I guess they could get it on their cell phone over, it's broadcast.
It's a technology debate.
I have no idea. Yeah. Let's not talk about that. Anyway, the laws are different, as we all know, in different areas of the country. What may be a good shooting in Nevada could be a horrible shooting in New York City, and probably would be. But the laws vary from state to state, sometimes county to county. Yes. So we always want you to understand that you need to, if you're involved in a case or have a serious question about, could I shoot the guy if, you probably want to talk to a local criminal defense attorney who knows the rules in the state or the county you live in. We can give you general advice, but boy, it's hard to get specific on what you should do if you're in New Jersey. The Livingston Parish News, this reported back on 9/28 in Walker, Louisiana, deputies in the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office were dispatched to a suspicious person called acting irrationally, according to the sheriff. His name is Jason Hard. Arriving deputies located a white male, partially clothed, hiding under a residence. The 46-year-old had been shot once in the lower leg by the homeowner who reported the incident, and he was transported for treatment for non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators learned the wounded individual went to a nearby home without permission, committing a disturbance. That was the basis of the call. The homeowner, an elderly female, made contact with him in her yard. The intruder then removed his pants and shoes and walked toward her. Fearing for her life, the elderly female produced a firearm, gave a verbal command for him to stop. Instead, he fled toward the homeowner's unlocked residence, where there was another woman, more elderly than this woman, inside. The homeowner feared the man would enter the residence and harm her roommate, so she fired what she thought was a warning shot, that hit the suspect in the lower left leg, according to the sheriff. The intruder then fled under the residence, where he was located by responding deputies. He was taken by ambulance to the hospital and so forth. Information received from his family by the investigating deputies indicated that he suffers from a mental condition, had not been taking his medication as prescribed. He will be charged with criminal trespassing and disturbing the peace. No charges, obviously, are pending against the homeowner, who, again, said she shot as a warning and was surprised to learn that she'd hit the guy. Intruders are just full of surprises. You never know when someone shows up at your door or you find them in your yard. When I read this, I'm thinking of Forrest Gump's the movie where he said, it's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Who would expect a guy coming onto your property would be this goofy? But he's mentally ill.
It's a very close case, though.
Well,
he doesn't have a weapon.
I absolutely agree.
And she engages him with a level of force substantially higher than what he's presenting. I think she would have to have some more facts before. I mean, she could have had some problems on the shoot. She could have some problems civilly on the suit.
She could. She's in Louisiana, which is generally a little more favorable toward self-defense.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And, I can, if this goes to a jury, I can't imagine, well, the criminal case, can't imagine anything happening.
Well,
they're going to say he was coming toward her and she fired a shot.
No, actually, the facts say that he was running towards the unlocked door. So she was coming essentially to the aid of a third party.
She was coming, well, she knew the third party's in there and she knows this guy's goofy.
But, define goofy,
Well, that's the trick. Define goofy, Mr. Damage.
That's a technical term. I would hire an expert for that.
And I'm not him. This is a case where you really do want to bring in a psychologist, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. I would, if I was representing the guy that got shot.
Her reaction.
Well, if I was representing the guy that got shot, absolutely, I would bring in a mental health expert to explain why this guy has some severe problems, why he's not violent, and why she overreacted. Not to mention, she's actually admitting a certain level of incompetence by
she missed
by saying that it's a warning shot, which you're never supposed to fire anyway, barring your particular theory on that subject matter.
Yes,
but that the warning shot actually hit the assailant.
Yes.
So, she's got some problems
from hitting somebody else.
Yeah,
so,
at least
that's good.
At least it landed in a backstop of some sort.
The bullet stopped somewhere without hitting a neighbor. Wow, this is going to be an interesting show. Bill's in his prosecutor mode. WMAZ TV and KPRC TV, both in Houston, Texas, reported on the 1st, according to Harris County Sheriff's deputies. This is not good. 3 males entered an AutoZone in Jersey Village on Jones Road about 9 p.m., holding the employee at gunpoint and demanding cash from the register. A customer outside saw the incident occurring. The building is a glass front. Anyway, he decided to help, so he went inside the store, pulled his gun, told all 3 men to get on the ground and release their weapons, meaning I assume to kick them away or push them away from their bodies, while they waited for deputies to arrive. All 3 suspects laid down on the ground, held at gunpoint by the armed citizens until deputies arrived, and all 3 men were arrested. Deputies said they appreciated the Good Samaritan's deed. However, they do not recommend that people to make such a bold move, because things could have ended in a shootout and many people could have gotten hurt. And I have to insert here, duh, of course. Start with, this is a courageous act. The armed citizen, he's a hero for going in to try to prevent the robbery and possibly a few murders. We've got 3 armed bad guys. All 3 were armed. And he was brave to do that. And I want to make that clear before I say I've got to agree with the sheriff's deputies.
Oh, sure.
This was an extremely foolish, high-risk thing for the guy to do. Why? We don't know if there's other customers in the store that didn't say anything or other employees. But we do know there are shoppers. It's a shopping center. There are passersby out there. What could possibly go wrong? Everything.
Everything. Yeah.
The solution here is you see that there's 3 armed men. Call 911. Be a good witness. Looking at what happened, I've looked at a lot of robbery cases and whatnot over the years. The probability of 3 armed robbers, when you walk in and go, get on the ground, of them complying rather than shooting at you is incredibly remote.
Yes.
They did. You know, what is well ends well. You know, it worked. This guy is extremely lucky that he was not injured or the clerk shot or Lord only knows. I can't imagine. You're in law enforcement for years. You walk into a robbery with 3 armed men and go, get on the ground, and they all do.
Yeah. Yeah. At least one of them should have run. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
they're either going to run or they're going to fight. You know, in most cases.
Yeah. So no, yeah, and he doesn't have the equipment. He doesn't have handcuffs. He doesn't have body armor. He doesn't have. How long is he going to be holding these people at gunpoint? What's going to happen in the situation? Are there people outside? You know, what if there was a getaway driver who was also armed that wanted to follow in behind him?
Which commonly there is.
I know. And so I mean,
there may have been.
what
They just drove away. We don't know.
Yeah, there's so many what ifs in this situation. You know.
Wow. Call the cops and duck. Now, if they start firing at the people in the store, you may feel an obligation because human lives are in danger. Now you've got a wholly different situation.
Do it from cover.
Yeah. Don't. This was, like I say, brave guy. He's courageous as all get out. Wow. The gun store offers free concealed carry permit classes every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Saturday. You can find them on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. We do take signups online, and you can learn about why you shouldn't do this kind of thing when it's apparently not a shooting situation yet, and you could make it one. WSB TV in Atlanta, Georgia on the 28th. A 41-year-old father had just arrived home from work when a suspect with a gun robbed him and another man of roughly $1,000 in cash. The incident happened in an apartment complex in the 1000 block of Collier Road, if you're from Atlanta, early Saturday morning, early meaning 1 in the morning. The father of 4 decided to take matters into his own hands. We don't have police reports on this yet. We only have family statements that they made to the media, so I can tell you that ahead of time. The oldest son said, my dad chased after the guy with his gun. They went around the building. His son said he added the thief fired 2 shots at his dad. 1 hit a nearby car. Then as the father rounded the building, he came face to face with an off-duty Atlanta police officer. The officer had heard the gunshots, and seeing his father running with a gun, the officer opened fire. His shots hit the father multiple times. Atlanta PD has placed the officer on administrative leave while the Georgia Bureau of Investigation investigates. Obviously, they have a different agency investigate the shooting. That's standard practice. The son said, I think he should have at least yelled freeze or something. My dad knows English. He would have said something like stop or freeze. He would have stopped. The GBI is working on the officer-involved shootings with the officer-involved officer's attorney to do an interview. The father, who is a family sole breadwinner, is in critical condition, but is expected to recover, fortunately.
Only good news in this situation.
Yeah, it's extremely risky to chase suspects. One of those risks, rarely, but it does happen, is friendly fire.
Yes.
The father's trying to recover the money that apparently his family needs, and makes a spur of the moment decision to chase. We all want to do that. I mean, that's a normal human reaction. GBI will do a thorough investigation, I am sure. As I said, we only have the father's family's interviews so far. Perhaps the officer did warn the father, and in the frantic, dynamic situation, the father didn't hear it. We don't know, and I'm just guessing. The facts will come out in the investigation and probably in the courts with this one.
Oh yeah. There's two victims here. I mean, that officer's devastated.
Oh, I mean,
he's devastated, and he's probably going to be found to have been justified. He's very likely going to be found to have been justified.
I would think so. When we get all the details,
Depends on timing.
It really depends on the timing, distances, and what he could see and what he couldn't see.
Yeah.
The point of our using the story here is when you chase suspects, sometimes they can shoot you. You have another problem out here. You have helpful other people with guns, neighbors, see you, they know there's a robbery, they heard the shooting, they see a guy running with a gun, they could do the same thing. A police officer generally would automatically throw out warnings. We don't know that he did.
If feasible.
Yeah. We stopped the whole thing by don't chase the suspects. I know they got your money.
It's just property.
It may take you 6 months to make the $1,000 back. But if you just are a good witness, call the police, guy went this way, looked at that, odds are sooner or later they're going to catch him and hopefully recover your money. For a note on this, the family has created a GoFundMe account under the name Pedro Maldonado to help the family with medical and living expenses. He's going to be okay apparently, but he's going to be hospitalized or maybe a bit of rehab.
This whole issue is a national issue, Bob, and it's a legal issue. It's a social issue. This he should have yelled freeze or something that's coming out that you're seeing in all these protester movements and things like that. It's a loaded issue. Your average Joe on the street thinks, oh, well, yeah, you can, you have that time to be able to verbalize something like that. Yeah. Most times you don't.
You really don't. These happen so quick.
And when they take them and put them on different types of training equipment, newscasters, church members, and things like that, people, protesters, simulators, they come to find out the reaction times involved. This gentleman, if he came around the corner face to face with a gun and an off-duty police officer has a gun, you're talking a quarter of a second.
Yeah, maybe.
And as you taught in academies, then it becomes who thinks to pull the trigger first, because now it's about how long it takes that neuron to move down the nerves in your body to pull the trigger. And so it's just it's a very, very difficult issue. On the one hand, yes, we would like police officers to be able to use as low a level of force as possible, but unfortunately, that's just under real world conditions, it's generally not possible.
What would you do? I mean, you're off duty and you hear shots and a guy runs around the corner of the building with a gun in his hand.
He's duty bound to respond.
I mean,
the officer's duty bound to respond.
To do something. He can't just watch the guy run away.
I would suspect under their policy that he is duty bound to do something.
Yeah.
Okay, to act.
Most states require that police officers see what appears to be a felony. They are by law required to intervene. They can't ignore it.
No.
They can ignore your speeding ticket if they want. They can't ignore what appears to be a violent crime.
And their action may be, again, to take cover, draw their weapon, and call in, other officers and pursue and stay on the scene. But at the same time, they can't just turn around and walk away.
Yeah, and if the officer had time, I suspect a well-trained officer would have done exactly that.
Yeah.
He would have yelled at him. If the guy didn't stop, then he would say, I'm in pursuit of a guy. He looked like he had a gun, and I'm running down Main Street on the west side. We don't know. The GBI is being very closed mouth about this case. I tried to pull other details, and obviously with the sensitivity of it, they are not releasing anything.
These cases are causing riots
And
across the country.
when I put only in the review here what the family said, be sure you understand that this is one half of what's going on, and the other side is virtually always different. This story is from a really fun website I found called DNAinfo.com, which is student run, and it advertises itself as Chicago's leading neighborhood news source. We're dealing with a one source story here again, so look out. They reported on 9/28 in Chicago, a man with a concealed carry license shot and killed an armed robber Wednesday night on Grand Boulevard, according to police reports they got. At 8:20 p.m., a man was sitting in his car with another man in the 4300 block of South State Street when two men with guns walked up and tried to rob them. This is according to Officer Anna Pacheco of the Chicago Police Department. One of the men in the car reacted by firing his gun. He hit one of the robbers in the head. That local 23-year-old was pronounced dead at the scene. He's identified Friday by the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. The other robber fled on foot, leaving his partner to die in the street. Pretty common. The 32-year-old self-defense shooter had a valid concealed carry license, according to police sources. That's really important when you're dealing with a shooting in Chicago. That
Yes.
Yeah. I get letters that say, why do you bother to say it was a good shooting? What matters if we had a permit or not? In Chicago, it does. Big time matter. This is a great shooting. It's another case we were just talking about of action beating reaction. The criminal's pointing a gun. He will take about 1 second to realize that his intended victim is pulling a gun also, and about a half a second more to actually fire his gun from the time his brain says shoot till his finger actually presses the trigger and the bullet's launched. About a second and a half with average people. In that time frame, if your bullet strikes his brain or brainstem, as it did in this case, the bad guy's hand will relax. He will not pull the trigger. If you hit him someplace less important, he may react by clutching his hands, because I hear the shot, and people do that. If he's got his finger on the trigger, he's going to fire.
Or he may continue to fight.
And you both get hit. Gunfights are a sporting event where ties lose. We always recommend, when Bill and I were teaching together, we always recommend multiple shots, 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the circumstance and the distance and so on. Because firing the one shot, if it doesn't hit something vital and the guy is armed, he's going to fire back at you. And the vital target on this guy is very small. And got to imagine, people are moving. It's not like shooting a tin can off a fence post. Everybody's bobbing and weaving. So this guy was either an extremely good shot or extremely lucky, whichever, it worked. I just made some notes here that Chicago street criminals are starting to find more and more armed victims, because now, of course, they're issuing permits reluctantly, but issuing them. Hopefully, they'll start issuing them faster and get a better system going as they realize that these are not causing shootings, the murders they're always talking about. They're causing the bad guys to think twice and hopefully go into another line of work. It does work. Robbers tend not to go to places they think people are armed. That's why we have all this data that says gun-free zones attack robberies.
They're looking for low-hanging fruit.
If you see a sign that says gun-free, guns not allowed, don't go there, because the risk of your being robbed or attacked is higher than places where people who carry guns. There's statistical backup. I'm not going to try and put into the show, but those are reality. I want to mention the Gun Store offers machine gun shooting events for corporate groups, bachelor parties, any group event like that. You can contact Melissa at thegunstorelasvegas.com. for reservation. WDSU News 6, 928. 928 was a great day for shootings. There were just one like that. Police arrested an elderly man who said he shot one of two men he saw in his shed around 3 a.m. Wednesday in the St. Claude neighborhood. If you're around New Orleans, you would know where that was. The 73-year-old resident was in criminal court Wednesday afternoon, where a magistrate judge set his bail at $10,000 for an aggravated battery charge because he said the judge said he does not believe the resident is a public danger. Apparently, the judge is saying he set this low bail of $10,000. This is against the guy who fired his gun. And they charged him with aggravated battery.
This is a homeowner.
Yeah, the homeowner, his old guy. According to police report they read in court Wednesday afternoon, the resident security company alerted him of a possible break-in at his home. Okay. So he grabbed his gun, went outside where he saw two men running from his shed. He yelled at them to stop. One man kept running, but the other one stopped. 50-50. The resident told police that the man appeared to reach for his waistband. That's when the resident shot the 53-year-old bad guy in the neck. That shot resulted in critical injuries. The judge found probable cause to charge the 73-year-old resident with aggravated battery. Said the issue in question, whether deadly force was necessary, and $10,000 is a low fee for aggravated battery.
Bail.
Yeah, a bail. So, there's a couple of neighbors interviewed. One said that if someone broke into a residence shed once before, so he put up a fence for protection. Jail ain't no place for anybody. Said there's one neighbor who doesn't believe his neighbor should be incarcerated, as he was only protecting his property with deadly force. That's actually a negative statement.
It's a no-go. It's a no-go at that station.
Don't have your witnesses say that.
Yeah.
Another neighbor said he was not sure how he would respond to the same situation. If they're in my yard and they ain't breaking in nothing, I'd try to call police and let them handle it. Well, the second neighbor's right. That's what you should do. The shooter's an elderly guy. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Opinion here, I would expect the charges to be dismissed after a little longer consideration by the judge. A reasonable jury criminally could come back, I think, easily with a not guilty verdict, given it's 3 in the morning and the guy's scared. Should he have fired? No. Was it totally unreasonable? No.
But it is a question of fact.
Yeah.
Okay, for a jury to determine, which means you have to roll the dice and go to trial, and you have to bear the expense of that trial to appear in front of a jury and put your future at the mercy of those members. And
who pays for all that?
Yeah, and so it's a very difficult thing to do.
And here, I'm only commenting on the criminal case.
Yeah.
I think a jury would at least be hung.
I don't know.
But, well, you know.
Is it the guy that was running away?
We've been on opposite sides of cases, too. That's why we disagree.
Was it the guy that was running away, which I would say he's going to be wrong. It's the guy who stopped and reached into the waistband.
He says reached for something.
Yeah.
I can see a jury letting a 73-year-old guy walk on it.
Absolutely.
The civil lawsuit from the guy with the bullet in his neck, however, is, I think, another issue.
I think they would equally go the same way if those are the facts. I think because nobody's going to want to help them. You know, in this day and age, they're not going to want to help that person.
The bad guy.
The bad guy, absolutely. They're not going to want to help them. The jury's not going to want to help them.
Did you know he was a single father with 14 small children he's trying to support, and he's crippled from his injuries in Vietnam?
I would have asked the judge for a bench trial, just so you know.
The bad guy is going to have some reasoning in this too, you know. So, what's the guy stealing? Solution: don't do this. Your alarm company says somebody's breaking into your shed. Peek out, get a description, stay on the phone and tell 911 what the guy looks like.
Good witness.
What's he stealing in your shed that's worth you going out and now finding yourself facing a guy potentially reaching for a gun.
Well, yeah, from a position of cover,
There
give him
is
some commands.
nothing in the story that says the bad guy had a gun. Again, there's nothing that says he didn't. So,
It's dark.
yeah, 3 a.m., guy makes the motion. Would I assume he had a gun? Yes. But I'd be behind a concrete wall yelling, go away.
Yeah, get out of my shed.
Gun store offers free concealed carry permit classes, again, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Find them on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. We are now at, ooh, this is a great story. I hunt all the time for these. This is wonderful. This is WHTM, it's channel 27, which is ABC, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on the 30th of September. Picture this. Police say they're looking for a man who tried to steal from a Walmart store in Swatara Township. It's somewhere near Harrisburg, I guess, and made his getaway by carjacking a woman in the parking lot. They're looking for a known 45-year-old suspect. He's charged with robbery of a motor vehicle, kidnapping, and multiple other offenses. He fled the Walmart after a theft attempt just before noon.
So he's a shoplifter.
He's attempt shoplifter.
Okay.
Okay. With security officers chasing him, he jumped into a woman's car in the parking lot and demanded she drive him away from the store. So we now have carjacking, kidnapping.
He bought himself a couple of tickets to several concurrent consecutive life sentences.
A theft attempt. I hope he was attempting to steal something really valuable.
Yeah.
Anyway, as they drove away, the suspect threatened the woman and her passenger, another woman, by claiming he had something with him that would give them both HIV. When the car stopped at a red light right at the corner, the female passenger jumped out and pulled a handgun out of her bag. Surprise! She's a gun toter.
Okay.
She orders the man out of the car, but a struggle ensued between the armed woman and the guy over her gun. She fired at least one shot and he ran away. He was last seen running toward the railroad property behind the Walmart. They lost him. Police got there, they searched everything. They figured he may have had a car waiting. But anyway, he's in the wind. Neither woman was harmed. Returned to the store to wait for police. Investigators identified the suspect from the surveillance video of him entering the store. The camera recorded the license plate number of the driver who dropped him off. So authorities say he had previous convictions for violent robbery. So picture now, he comes running out because they caught him shoplifting. His getaway driver took off.
Of course.
So I'm just they could make a movie out of this. Anyway, they got the license number, so they know who the guy is, and he's got this history. This is a great story.
She had great weapon retention techniques.
Yeah. So, well, there's some stuff we could obviously talk about here. An idiot bad guy gets himself shot. That's great. Police don't believe the suspect was hit. They found no evidence of blood anywhere. Having the firearm and the will to use it at least saved the day one more time. There's a problem here of she's got a gun out. He jumps out of the car and starts wrestling for the gun. We don't have the layout of where the other woman in the car was or any other bystanders, but we will. Hopefully the woman could have been standing further away where he couldn't get the gun. You never want to be close enough to the bad guy where you're like here going drop the gun because he can grab my gun faster than I could fire it. Oh, that's only my finger. So the woman did have a concealed carry permit, so we would assume she has some training. Pennsylvania, I'm sure, requires it at this moment. So, but if you look at this situation now, as comedic as it is, he goes to this multiple felony, kidnapping, threatening, chemical contamination,
whatever it is,
to kill them, etc. If this woman had not had a firearm, And he is a
Previous
criminal
convictions.
with previous convictions in violent robberies.
Hmm.
He's a several-time loser, as near as we can tell. And what would have happened to these women? Once he's in their car, he's got control of them. They're dead.
Very risky
Carry
situation.
your gun. You know, I harp on people on these shows and on radio calls that there's no point in having a gun if you don't have it with you when you need it, and you never know when trouble is going to find you. She wasn't looking for trouble. They didn't drive to a dangerous area, you know, that we would tell you, well, just don't drive there. I mean, she's minding her own business. The guy runs out and jumps in her car.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be this career criminal. Wow.
Not a very smart guy.
No, I mean,
Walmart's
they know who he is. He's
Walmart's
gone.
the most frequently sued corporation on the planet.
Are they really?
And they've had some horrific parking lot negligence cases. And so they have one of the most intricate surveillance systems of their parking lots. And they have, like, because they're on notice, they have these security patrols all the time in their parking lots.
Yeah, well, they got the guy's plate
Exactly, that's why.
on their security camera. I mean, that's a high resolution camera
Exactly.
to catch the plate of a car that dropped somebody off. It's just, I mean, everything went, it's a great case. They saved themselves.
Yeah, nobody got killed either.
Nobody got killed.
That's always good.
And they're not armed at all, other than probably being a little nervous.
And she kept her gun.
Yeah.
He didn't get the gun, so there you go.
So
Win-win.
that part worked.
Yeah.
Well, usually when you start firing it, they let go. Yeah. So, anyway, wow, that was pretty good. This next one is just, well, this is food for thought. This is a Courier News in Conroe, Texas, reported on the 3rd, a couple days ago. Police said 4 males, all dressed in all black, entered Jeff's Jewelry around lunchtime and demanded the jewelry, purses, and other items. They opened fire on the store employees and customers, with at least 3 store workers returning fire. The owner actually with an AK-47, semi-automatic, I presume. Arriving Conroe police officers found 1 robber dead in the doorway along with the shattered glass. The owner, his employees, and customers were left shaken but unharmed. 3 other robbers fled the scene in the Conroe West Strip Center in the 4800 block of Texas 105 West, if you know where that is. This is in Conroe. The owner's attorney was called to the scene after the incident. Good idea. He said you always have a right to defend yourself, especially when the robber shoots at you. Pretty much a given. He said all witnesses reported the 4 men started shooting first. Windows were broken out of the store. The police set up barriers around the crime and manhunt ensued for the other 3 men. Conroe police located their abandoned vehicle. It was less than a mile away. By 5 p.m., this took place at noon. They had not been located. According to the police department, they may no longer be in the area. The owner was not available for comment to the press. Good idea. According to his attorney, Mr. Bond. I didn't run this story to recommend a way for armed citizens to combat crime. I mean, the owner here did everything he could possibly do to be prepared for a violent gang robbery. At the same store, they noted in November of 2014, there was a gang of 5 with a sledgehammer, backed a stolen plumbing truck up to the front of the store, jumped out, ran in and started smashing display cases. The owner that time pulled a shotgun out from behind the counter. The 5 all turned around and ran. Having guns for self-defense works. I'm not running this story as a point to say that, you know, you should get involved in a criminal gang is way beyond the capability of most people.
Absolutely.
Fighting.
I take the facts, meaning the owner had the situation thrust upon him, and they just happened to have the weapons handy.
Well, unfortunately, he told the police he kept it because of the previous incident.
Sure, but
Shotgun, and he was planning to defend his jewelry. well, defend his life. And that's okay, but this is way beyond the scope of what I view this show of civilian self-defense.
Sure.
This type of crime is caused by lack of law enforcement of criminal statutes. It's because of catch and release programs, I believe. It's lack of prison time. They're going to discover that not all of you guys have long criminal records.
Sure.
I know. I mean, who plans a robbery like this? They even dumped the getaway vehicle and had another one. This is a pre-planned military precision, probably a drug gang. And instead of enforcing laws and locking people up, or, we have gun laws now that are trying to disarm the victims even further. If this guy had not been armed, probably he and his employees would all be dead.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
the gangsters are becoming bolder and bolder day by day. We've all seen these in almost every city in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
This type of gang robbery, gang control of areas of town.
Mm-hmm.
And that we change our liberal views of law enforcement and start locking people up and deporting people who commit crimes that aren't legally in the country, not patting them on the head and giving them a citizenship paper by mistake, whatever. I'm getting off the point here, but this is caused by our liberal attitude toward crime in the United States.
Violent crime.
Everybody deserves a second chance. Not everybody deserves a third or fourth chance. These people need to be locked up and stayed there. It's going to be expensive to do. It's more expensive to have whole towns getting shot up by street gangs. I'm just, vote. We have an election coming up. Some of them are saying law and order, and we need to lock up criminals and deport criminals that are in the country illegally. Who argues against that? Sanctuary cities and crap like that. We can't have criminals have safe zones. Ridiculous. Vote. There, I'm on my soapbox.
Okay.
There was an interesting story out of Atlanta that has some interesting stuff. This is carried by another website, Keep and Bear Arms. All over my stuff appears on ammoland.com and occasionally on Keep and Bear Arms also. So, Atlanta police believe a recent surge in car break-ins in Midtown is more than a random crime. National reporting has found that it's the country's leading city, Atlanta, when it comes to guns being stolen from cars. Over the last 2 weeks, 120 cars were broken into in 2 sprees in Midtown Atlanta. The Atlanta Police Sergeant Warren Pickard says the thieves are leaving obviously valuable items behind. So far this year, more than 600 guns have been stolen from vehicles in Atlanta. San Francisco just passed a city ordinance penalizing people for leaving guns in their cars. Atlanta can't do that. It's not really a good idea in San Francisco either. Georgia law says that kind of gun control has to come from the state legislature. So Atlanta can't make a rule you're not allowed to leave a gun in the car as a city, like they probably couldn't do in San Francisco either. They just did it. But one of the problems is last year and a half, Atlanta police have taken incomplete reports on more than 500 stolen guns. Incomplete means the guy didn't know the serial number, or didn't know the serial number or make or model or caliber of his gun. So they may have recovered it already and it had fingerprints of, the guy that stole it, but they don't know it's stolen when it's recovered. Anyway, ATF came up with the number of guns stolen from Georgia end up used in crimes confiscated by police elsewhere is the highest in the nation. So Georgia, this is obviously an organized street gang. This is, part of the problem is us. I'm discouraging people to use signs on their car that say there's a gun in here, like keep honking, I'm still reloading, or driver carries only $5 in ammunition. I love those 2 stickers. They're funny as all get out. But they say to thieves, there's a gun in here.
Yeah.
And then when you leave your car, They break into it, and as they're finding in Atlanta, they take the gun and leave other expensive stuff. They just wanted the guns. So if you want to put a lockbox in your car, you can bolt it in, you know, and it has a key or it has a finger code like we recommend putting in your house when you have kids. It'll keep the guy from doing a smash and grab and getting your gun. When you park it or you give it to a valet guy, which is, you know, valet guys, most of them are pretty good, but not all of them. You give your car to somebody and, you know, there's a gun in there. Come on, you got to secure it somewhere. So stay away from the stickers. You know, I don't want to tell you don't put your support the NRA sticker, but that kind of says the same thing.
Yes.
It's who puts a support your NRA sticker on their car? The guy who has a gun.
Or at least likes them.
Yeah, at least likes guns. Little political thing here. We have Las Vegas City Councilman Stavros Anthony has joined a list this week of Nevada politicians, including our Governor Brian Sandoval, Senator Dean Heller, Congressman Joe Heck, Crescent Hardy, and Mark Amadei, all urging defeat of Question 1, the so-called universal background checks bill. Stavros Anthony said, within his experience of 7 years as city councilman and 29 as a part of the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, Question 1, the universal gun registration, will not make Nevadans any safer. It doesn't prevent criminals from obtaining firearms or impose stricter punishment for illegal possession. Question 1 is part of the national agenda that we're all aware of to erode gun rights. And make it more difficult for law-abiding citizens to protect and defend themselves. Stavros said, please join me on November 8th to tell Bloomberg and his antics aren't welcome in our state and vote no on Question 1. If you own a television, you've noticed they're running an ad every 30 seconds now, how this will make us safer from crime. Question 1 will not do that. It doesn't prevent criminals from getting guns or penalize criminals for having guns. Simply makes it harder for regular people to get guns. And that's the truth. So vote with your gun rights and vote no on 1. Notes here. Western Trails Gun and Knife Show at Henderson Convention Center, October 22nd, 23rd. Then we have Crossroads of the West Gun Show at Cashman Field downtown on the 29th and 30th. I have a few passes yet for that. If you would like a pass to the Cashman Gun Show on the October 29 and 30, drop me an email at bob@firedupmail.com. I'm sure it went something. Anyway. It's on the website, bob@firedupmail, where you can write in for questions or comments. And tell me you'd like a pass to the Cashman Show. I will get one for you. I need your telephone number or way to contact you back. And I'll get you one. Got about 15 left at the moment. Then we have the best show I like, the Las Vegas Gun Show at the Sports Center. But that's not till November, so we'll skip that for now. We'll be back here next Thursday from 5 to 6. With guest attorney Donald Green. For those of you that go to gun shows, Don is the guy who is always now at the gun shows with his "I'm a gun lawyer" sign, and does. I did a couple criminal defense cases for him years ago, and we did pretty good. He's a pretty good lawyer. He really only does now gun cases. He licensed here in California, so he's actually, we're going to have him on next week, but he's in or week after next. He's in California doing a case there. Licensed in both states. Really knows his gun stuff. I am amazed at his research. And anyway, he'll be on next week in this time slot on KSHP and on YouTube. It says I've got 4 minutes up here. So be sure to like us on Facebook if you would be so kind, and send your questions or comments to bob@firedupmail.com. I am carrying an extra story or two. Kind of a sad case here, and I need to get it on. This is WPMI NBC News TV 15 in Mobile, Alabama on the 28th. I don't have much detail on this, but police got an incident that happened just before 5 a.m. on September 7th, just reported now, in the 5900 block of Woodvale Avenue. The Mobile Police Department has released a video of a vehicle. Burglary suspect is accused of exchanging accused of exchanging gunfire with a homeowner. The victim told authorities his car alarm went off, and when he went outside, he noticed somebody rummaging through his vehicle. The homeowner then fired a shot toward the suspect. The suspect returned fire. That round hit the homeowner's wife. This is a 1,000,000-to-1 circumstance. Don't go out to confront people that are rummaging through your property. Call 911 and wait. You only want to start a gunfight if lives are on the line. This is,
If you have to.
I know immediately when this guy found his wife shot that he immediately realized that.
I'm hoping she didn't pass.
You know, she was in the hospital when I told this story, and this happened back on the 7th, and they still haven't released anything about it.
Yeah.
I think they have a line on the guy and don't want to give any other details. I don't know why it took them 3 weeks before this was reported in the news in Mobile. There may be other reasons for that. And I don't have very few of the details, but don't start a gunfight if your wife is standing behind you. He probably didn't know that. She probably just came out to help. But anyway. I got a minute. Alan Corwin from Bloomfield Press did a story about a month ago. A guy's invented a gun that looks like a cell phone. You can fold it up and it looks like a cell phone you carry on your belt. When you unfold it, it's a 2-shot 380 Derringer. It's still in development. There aren't any in the market yet. As a matter of law, a gun that doesn't look like a gun is classified by ATF as any other weapon. It requires a background check. It's like a pen gun or something. So you won't be able to just buy one anyway. Background checks and whatever.
A tax stamp?
A tax stamp, but it's a $5 tax stamp.
Oh, okay.
There's a few hurdles, but others are already marketing a cell phone that looks like a gun. So if you make a call they make a cover for your cell phone that looks like a gun. So every time you're on your phone, you look like a suicide attempt.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have a gun that looks like a cell phone. What could possibly go wrong here? This is an incredibly stupid idea. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Bill, thank you. We're on time, I believe. I need one of these.